Hello, America. Tonight, a little change of pace since it's a week until Christmas. I wanted to have a conversation. I mean, nothing says Baby's Last Christmas like a movie about a nuclear bomb going off, right? Am I right? Actually, the reason why the actor who's in this movie, the reason why I think it is appropriate for Christmas is he's really a unicorn in our culture. He is a devoted husband. Wait until you hear the story that almost killed his career. Father of five, he's a Christian, a political conservative who has spent his entire career in Hollywood, and he's successful. His name is Neal McDonough. He has appeared in everything from Yellowstone, Suits. He's currently in Tulsa with Sylvester Stallone. Justified, popcorn music movies like Captain America. He was in Band of Brothers, Steven Spielberg, Minority Report. Chances are you have seen him multiple times on TV or a movie screen, but he always seems to be the bad guy. Now he's starring as the head of a family trying to survive in a society that is breaking down in a post-apocalyptic world. It is the latest movie from Angel Studios, which comes out in theaters this Friday, called Homestead. Here's a preview.
Everyone wondered how the world ended.
We got hit.
Does the sun
America's just been attacked.
go on shining?
This is the story of how it began.
Los Angeles has been struck by a bomb.
Put your breath up. Put your breath in.
It might be nuclear.
I saw this. So what? We never come back.
What is this place?
Welcome to Homestead. Your guys have to learn how to farm.
We grow our food. We raise our animals. Can you handle yourself with a gun?
This might be the most prepared location in the Rockies. Everyone's going to want in. And I mean everyone.
Joining me now, lead actor and executive producer of Homestead, Neal McDonough. How are you, Neal?
Morning, Glenn. How are you? Doing great. Nice to be on your show. I've admired you from afar. I've loved your shows and your words for so many years. So speaking from everyone in the United States, thank you so much for doing what you do.
That is crazy. I'm such a big fan of yours, too. I never think of actors actually having a real life. I don't know. You do something else. You know, you don't watch shows like mine, you know. So let's talk about... Go ahead.
Half the time I walk down the street and people just get mad at me because of some of the heinous things that I've done to some other poor actors along my career. But Glenn, I got to tell you, I'm so fortunate, so blessed to be where I am. Here I am on the GlennBeck show. It's you know, and I don't take that lightly. You know, I got here. It's taken me a while to get to this spot, and the spot that my wife Reve and I have built together is really just a wonderful place to be, doing films that give glory to him. And it's been our calling now for the last several years. Now we're about to start our 10th movie together producing. So
unbelievable. So hang on just a second, because I want to talk about your relationship with your wife and you and everything else. But let's just start with the movie, and get that out of the way so we can talk about you personally, and later on in the show. The movie, you play a prepper, and you have stored and you're ready to go, and you've made space for other people as well, but you are now faced with this. Everybody's coming because everybody knows, and everybody's coming to your place, and they're all like, "We were friends, we know each other. How come you won't let me in?" I found that to be, because you play it with empathy. It's
one of those things. Well, it's just this post-apocalyptic situation in this film. An atomic bomb goes off, and what happens? And my character, which is kind of based upon this kind of Richard Branson type of character, that he has so much wealth and he's built this homestead that if something ever happened, he's going to be prepared. Well, something happened, and he is prepared. The problem is, now that he has it, and it's all fenced off, and he has militia to protect his land that he's hired, what happens to his friends outside the gate? What happens to other people who are around him? How does he deal as a man who professes to be a man of faith? How does he deal with that? How does he deal with having so much and people outside the gate have so little? And it calls, I love being in films like this because it makes me really think about me.
Yeah.
And as a method actor, I dredge up all this personal stuff to get to the most emotional response to everything that I can as an actor. And this is emotional because what would you do to protect your family? What would you do to protect your friends? And then who are your friends and how extended is your family? When you have a surplus of things, do you actually share with your neighbors as we're supposed to love thy neighbors more than you love yourself? And that's what I love about this project. It really brings us to question ourselves and our integrity. We call ourselves people of faith. Well, when push comes to shove, are we really? And that's what I love about this film. So,
I'm a massive prepper, and I have a ranch in the mountains and everything else, and we've prepared and over-prepared, tried to, but we know there's going to be, I mean, if it's really kind of like in that scenario, well, and how do you say no? How do you not let somebody in?
It's hard, in our family, in the McDonough house, it's, we have two tenets we kind of live by: God first, me second; family first, me second. And if you live by those rules, you kind of stay out of trouble, and you're always striving to make the right choices. Look, we're all sinners, we're all humans, we're all making silly mistakes every single day that we sometimes regret. And it's how you get past that and how you learn from your mistakes that makes you a better human being. And those are things that we pride ourselves on in our house. And when you get to do a film like this that makes you think about, really, what would you really do if? Mm-hmm. Those are the films that I love to watch, because there's so many films out there that don't really make you think. They give you your thoughts for you. Right. Where a film like this makes you think, wow, what would I do if I had all this and my friend Becky is outside the gate and I can't let her in?
Yeah.
Those are big, hard questions.
The wife in the movie, your wife ends with a monologue about if you're in this situation, it can't be about survival. You talk about that?
Yeah, if that's a very solitary thing, isn't it? If it's just about my survival, well, then I forget about humanity. I forget about my brothers and sisters. I forget about what God created. Look, I've said so many times that since we're all God's children, that makes us all brothers and sisters. And shouldn't we all root for each other, not thinking that my race, my creed, my religion, my this or that is better than yours? We're all in it together. We all have different names for different things, but we're all related when you really think about it. And we should just root for each other more. And films like this make you really think about, is that the truth? Well, it is the truth. And what are we going to do about it? I love being able to talk to things like that, because it really tests us and makes us think, makes me realize how fortunate I have to have the life that I have. Yeah. I've gone through some, really difficult times in my life that I've had to overcome. And luckily I've had someone like my wife, Reve, who was there with me to help me get through situations, whether it was when they took everything away from me, or whether it was my, struggling with drinking and all the things that I've had to go through in my life. I've been blessed because I've had a person who's alongside there with me, pushing me and helping me get to be the best version of myself possible. And there's my relationship with God, always trying to do, the closer I get to God, or the closer any of us get to God, the more humbling it becomes, because you realize you don't need a whole lot. All you need really is love and understanding and being the best person you can be for your brothers and sisters. Simple.
We have a lot in common. I'm an alcoholic. Are you an alcoholic? Or just drink around? Okay. So I'm an alcoholic, and my wife, I'd be dead if it wasn't for her. My wife is a lot like God, kind of the manifestation in some ways. I don't treat them the same way. I see them much in the same way. They both make me want to be a better person, and I don't want to disappoint them. You know what I mean?
Isn't that an awesome way to wake up every day?
It is. It really is.
To know that you got that, and so we're two blessed dudes, and we get to do what we love to do, and get to talk to interesting people and be parts of really incredible things. So, but the higher I go up on this ladder, the more humbling it becomes. That really and I don't like to think about it too much because I don't want to jinx it. I know. I'm a very fortunate man.
I know. And it's, I think your alcoholism and going through that, I think that's actually a huge blessing. Fame and fortune are battery acid to the soul. And
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's the
here, have this. You're a celebrity. Here, have more of this. Here, you can get away with, you can run down Hollywood Boulevard naked with a bottle of Jack Daniels in your hand. But if you're on a hit show, oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah.
Look at Neal go.
I know.
Right, but if
it's
you're
crazy.
Show, you're going to jail. So they allow you to do all kinds of obscene things once you become famous or celebrity or whatever the case is, and it's just an odd thing. And I find myself, I find myself not spending an exorbitant amount of time with my wife and kids because I love and trust them so much, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy everyone, I really do. But I'm much more. My wife Hervé is the extrovert in the family. I'm much more of the introvert, but I fake it really well for about 30-second clips.
That is funny.
I go, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. How are you?
That is funny.
But I'm really much more of a homebody, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. All right. We're going to come back because Neal did something recently that almost ended his career, which I've only heard from one other actor, and it's one of my favorite stories. And now there's two. I'll tell you about it next. Listen, the world is absolutely crazy, and we never know what's going to happen. Watch Homestead. It's always a good idea to have some emergency medicines and food on hand, but medicines. What happens if we have a trade war with China? They have 80% of our medicines are made in China. Did you know that? Recently, a whole line of carrots from Grimway Farms was recalled because they found E. coli in them. Carrots. Good news is there's something you can do to ensure that you and your loved ones have medical care when it's needed. It's a solution that thousands of people have already discovered. It's called the Jace case. I have it at my home. It allows you to start stocking up on medication right now so you're prepared. The Jace case, a personalized emergency kit that contains essential antibiotics and medications that treat most common deadly bacterial infections. Get it now, jace.com/Beck. Enter the promo code Beck, jace.com.
Several years ago, I was really tested. Many of you have probably heard about, I was fired from a TV show because I wouldn't do a kissing sex scene. They said they needed me to do it for the ratings, but the show, we were on the first episode of the show, and it wasn't gonna be on the air for another several months. I was like, what do you mean? And I told them up front, this is something I'm not comfortable doing, and I just don't wanna do it. They said, you have to do it or we're gonna fire you. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do it. So they fired me. I was blackballed for 2 years. I couldn't get a job. And because of that, I lost my big, beautiful house in Los Angeles, my shiny Mercedes, all my stuff, and my swagger. And as you can imagine at the time, I was really crushed. They thought that I was some religious zealot, but to me, it was just that I didn't think it was the right thing to do. And also, I really love my wife. And as I've said, and I'll say it a million times, these lips are meant for one woman.
God bless you. So I've only heard this story from one other actor, very famous for exactly the same thing, and kind of almost worked out the same way as you if he wasn't such a big star. Do you know who it is?
Denzel?
Pat Boone in State Fair.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
He
Absolutely.
was coming down, and I think it was Shirley Jones, and he told me the story how they said, you have to kiss here. And he's like, no,
Nope.
my wife. He went home and asked and had to get permission, and they were pissed at him. But anyway, congratulations for that stand. So they blackballed you. Didn't that seem...
Dude, it was such a shiny Mercedes that I lost.
Oh, I know. I know. You know what? Can I tell you something? Because we have just so much in common. When I went through my alcoholism and I had lost my job and everything else, this is how shallow I was. I actually cried when my Mercedes went away. And, right? You did too?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
I had this beautiful home in Hancock Park. I had all the stuff, and I thought that's what life was supposed to be.
Right. Right.
And God, for some reason, had one of his angels punch me square in the face and make me realize what an idiot I was.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was there wasn't a bottle of Jameson that didn't have my name on it. For 2 years straight, it couldn't work, and I was just, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And everyone's heard the story that, and I said, God, why have you forgotten all about me?
Mm.
And as soon as I said it, I fell to my knees just sobbing, because I realized I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. And then 1 minute later, the phone rang, and it was Graham Yost from Justified. And he goes, I hear you going through some hard stuff. You want to be the villain on Justified this year? And I'm like, yes, yes, I do. And Reve and I were in the kitchen. It was the greatest phone call. I've told Graham how many times he saved my life. And he's like, stop. I'm like, yeah, but you actually did. And, and it's funny, from Justified on, and you look at my career and you look at my performances, Justified was my shot back at the title. And I wasn't taking it lightly. So there wasn't, and there hasn't been a second, maybe I was taking my career with a bit of a cavalier approach to things. I wasn't really working out so hard. I was thinking more about stuff instead of thinking about substance. And when I did Justified, it made me really dig into what I love to do and the gift that God gave me, and that's being a great actor. I can't pound a nail. I can barely tell a joke, but Reve says, but man, you can act. And there are a few things I'm really good at. That's what I was going to say on my tombstone. He's dead, yeah, but man, he could act.
He could act.
So,
I got to tell you, I keep saying I'm the first to be eaten after the apocalypse because I have zero skills. I could tell stories,
useless.
but
you can
that's
tell
it.
stories. That's right. On the fireside with all the zombies.
That's right. Yeah.
Boys, listen to this one.
Right.
Give him another day.
Right.
Give him one more. Don't eat it.
So when you were going through your alcoholism, that usually destroys marriages.
Yeah.
How did that hold together?
Where there's Reve, there's a way. She just kind of, I always say I can get through life with one hand tied behind my back as long as the other hand is being held and guided by Reve. And
that's great.
and I don't take that lightly. She's always there in my corner. And now that we're producing, we just produced Homestead, we produced The Shift, we produce it. Now we have our next film called The Last Rodeo that I wrote with my amazing writing partner, Derek Presley, and Reve and I produced it together. That comes out in May. In fact, Angel Studios, whom I adore, and have our deal through them. We'll talk about the amazing LDS faith and who they are, and it's just incredible. But they've given us the opportunity to be able to tell stories that give glory to him. And The Last Rodeo it's our baby. And we talk about, I've never had a kissing scene in a feature film. Well, I'm about to. My first one is with, I have flashbacks to my wife, and who did I make sure was playing my wife in the film, but none other than my wife, Reve. So, and I remember on the set that day, we're doing the kissing scene, and John Avnet is the director, who is the maestro, what he did with from Fried Green Tomatoes to Up Close and Personal to Justified all these years. He knows I love one take, maybe two. But that day in the kissing scene in front of my kids, I probably had 17 or 18. No, I didn't get that. I need one more. I need another one. Getting to make out with my wife on set, it was glorious.
Yeah.
So
especially in front of your kids, because they hate that.
They're like, "Oh, Dad, that's gross." But it's
the way to stop that is you just say, "Well, I could tell you how you were made."
That's right. Exactly.
It started with this, and then they just leave the room.
Right. Conversation's over. So yeah, in a really, it took going through being crucified to really understand what life is about. And it's something that it's oddly, I wish upon everyone that you have to go through something really difficult in life to realize how great things can be. My pastor once said, if you ask God for courage, he's going to give you courageous situations, and you have to see how you deal with it. Do you really want courage? Do you really want bravery? Do you really want all those things? Because you might be tested in it. And it's the worst thing at the time, but looking back at it, it was, the second greatest thing that ever happened to me other than meeting Reve. And I'm really blessed to be in this position right now.
I remember when I was at the height of my alcoholism and just starting to fight it, but hadn't gone to AA yet. I prayed for humility. And I think there's like a big red button that, like, your guardian angel or somebody just stomps on that button. Well, you ask for humility, he will deliver that. He will deliver.
So, it might be painful, but he will deliver it.
It's very painful. At least it was with me. So you're blackballed for 2 years. You come back, and you don't have a problem saying you're a conservative in what's been happening the last few years. Why would you do that?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a political guy. I'm really not. Reve calls me purple. There's a little red in me. There's a little blue in me. There's a little kind of, do I definitely go edge towards a more conservative side of a Kennedy Democrat as my dad told us as kids? Yeah, for sure. But it's, I think that there's been so much division. I hope now maybe that division will stop. My dad came over from Ireland with $12 in his pocket, got off the plane, walked straight into the Army office and said, "Make me an American." And they shipped him overseas for 5 years. Talk about a guy who was so proud to be American. I'm not sure if they allow that anymore, but I would think that with all the immigration problems, if there's a rule where you could come on in, if you can legally get into the United States with some kind of visa and you've been background checked and you can do 2 years in the service. Yeah, I think that's something that I don't think is preached enough. I think it created such a sense of stability for my dad and what he did thereafter, and 6 kids growing up in Boston with not a lot, but he figured out how to make it all work. And there's just something to that great pro-American outlook in life that everything is possible if you're in this great club called the United States of America. Yeah. And to get in here, if you do it the correct way, it's glorious. It is the greatest country ever devised, and we get to be part of it. And now it seems like it's being less divided, and people are coming to their senses and talking about common sense. And that's what I'm really good at. Is common. I mean, I'm the smartest guy in the world, but I get some really good common sense.
Right. And we should be able to talk to each other, and as long as we just agree on the Bill of Rights, we're all fine.
That's right. Exactly.
But you do think that this culture is turning a corner?
I'm an altruistic guy, I'm a positive thinking, I think that I do think it's turning a positive corner. I think that America is, one thing, in Declaration of Independence, it says God 4 times in it. It's on our coins. It's everywhere it is. It's who we are, exactly. And that we get to discuss that again and not worry about being so chastised by other people. Everyone's kind of coming to their common thoughts and thinking, okay, what can we do together as a country to make this a better place? And I think we're getting there. I really do think we're getting there. I think it's a new wave of positive energy coming back, and I hope it all works out great. I really do.
The last year book sales have only gone up by, I think, 1%, but Bible sales have gone up 21% in America.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's great. That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
That's a great sign.
Yeah.
Love that sign.
Back in just a second with Neal in a minute with the legacy of Band of Brothers and changing the Hollywood landscape. You think of despicable crimes, you think about stealing presents underneath a Christmas tree, and crime is up at this time of year every year. But the FBI calls house stealing, otherwise known as title fraud, despicable. If you own a home or any property, your title and the hard-earned equity that you have built is at serious risk. This is a fast-growing crime, very serious problem for property owners. In fact, a district attorney in California said that title fraud cases in his small county have gone from virtually none to 73 in the past 18 months. One document, you can forge it, forge your signature, all of a sudden they own your house, they take out a loan, you're left with a loan and no house. Home Title Lock will protect you. Go to HomeTitleLock.com right now. Use the promo code Glenn. Protect what is yours. 30 days of their triple lock protection for free. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Glenn.
Man, it's been a long war. It's been a tough war. We fought bravely, proudly for your country. We're a special group. We found in one another a bond that exists only in combat.
hard to believe, but that was 24 years ago. How did that change your life?
Oh my goodness, Band of Brothers changed my life in every aspect you could possibly imagine. I can't look at the footage. I haven't seen Band of Brothers since it came out. It's just, as a method actor, I dredge up my personal stuff to make things cook. And Band of Brothers, and I go back to, if I look at something I was in, I go back to exactly where I was and the thought that I had. It doesn't matter if it was 2 years ago or 20 years ago. So Buck Compton was such an emotional ride for me for so many reasons. First of all, I got to work with Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. I mean, that alone is just incredible.
Yeah.
The guys have become, we really are Band of Brothers. You should read the text threads that come through daily. Nothing, I mean, it's just, nothing is sacred with our threads, and it's
Right.
awesome.
I love that.
But I also met
Go ahead.
my wife, Reve, the very first day I got into town on St. Patrick's Day in 2000. I met my wife, Reve. So
Really?
Band of Brothers. Yeah, and I got to play Buck Compton, an American hero. So it was all just.
Which you knew, right? You became friends with him.
Buck became like another dad to me.
Really?
Buck was, he not only was he an All-American at UCLA in 2 sports, he and Jackie Robinson were so tight. They roomed together on the road.
Wow.
He was the one who was convincing me to come out of the political closet. He had a conservative talk show up in Washington when he left Los Angeles. And, we would talk all the time. He's like, just stop. Just admit to everyone that you're conservative. It's okay. It worked for Reagan. I'm like, well, I'm not Ronald Reagan. He goes, well, why can't you be? I'm like, oh my gosh. No one can. And then finally at his funeral, and I've told the story, and there was thousands of people. It was packed for Buck, because Buck Compton was, he put away Sirhan and Manson. He was a district attorney of Los Angeles. I mean, the guy was an incredible human being. And I sat there over his casket as I presided over his funeral. And I said, this might sound like an AA meeting, but this is for Buck. And I stood up. I said, hello, my name is Neal McDonough.
That's great.
And I'm a Republican. And the place I could feel Buck's coffin just
that's
moving
so
and
great.
in there. It was him
so
laughing
great.
and enjoying the moment, but it was, he was such an instrumental part of my life and how I thought and how I treated people, and, always have decency first and God right in the foreground and America, and do all the right things and make this, have your imprint on America, that when you do go, you did something great for your country.
Yeah.
And that's always in the back of my head, thanks to Buck.
You're in a TV show which I love, but again, you're the villain. Did that come first? No, you played Buck. You weren't the villain.
No, I came out to Hollywood to be a comedian. There was, and they're like, yeah, you don't look
Really?
funny. How about a cop? I'm like, okay, great. How about a soldier? And
Because you're
I was
always
never
the bad guy now, it seems. Like, I see you now, and I'm like, bad guy.
when I did Walking Tall, when I went in to meet for Walking Tall, I thought I was meeting for the Johnny Knoxville character. I'm like, no, we want you to play the villain. I'm like, oh. What? And it just turned my career around, and it made me not have to do kissing scenes, which I never really wanted to do. Before Reve, I was just never comfortable. I'm like,
That's
this is just kind of weird.
That's funny.
And then I decided I was going to be the villain du jour for as long as I could. And now that I get to write and produce my own films with Reve, I get to finally play the good guy, which is just awesome.
So there is something, Yellowstone just ended, and there is something, and maybe it's just the Taylor Sheridan effect, but I mean, because you're in Tulsa with him and Stallone. What is Stallone like to work with?
Oh my gosh. I always said pound for pound, my favorite actor I've ever worked with is Kevin Costner. Kevin's just one of those guys who listens so well. He gives back. He's so prepared. And I just loved working with Kevin the few times I worked with him. And then Sylvester Stallone comes along, and you can't find a guy who works harder than Sylvester Stallone. He's so prepared. He's always on time. He always has his family around, which I love.
Yeah.
And as do I. So, Reve and Jennifer are always hanging out on set, or the kids are hanging out. It was just, it was a fantastic year. I really enjoyed it. I'm so looking forward to going back next season and to work with Taylor again, and David Glasser, who's one of the greatest producers in the history of producing. And I get to work with Sly, who's just, he's unbelievable. He really is. He's unbelievable. At 78 years old, he has more energy than you and I combined.
It's amazing.
He's a beast.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, so
I thought for sure in Tulsa King you were going to be killed this year, but you ended up killing somebody else or be part of it.
That's right.
The thing that I've noticed, and maybe it's just Sheridan, but I don't think it is. In Yellowstone, it was the most apparent, and that is kind of this death of the cowboy, this culture that we're kind of coming up to. If we don't save our ranches, we don't save our cowboys, they'll all be in Brazil, and that'll be it.
Right.
And there's this feeling, Westerns weren't all that for a long time, and there's something about the West that's coming back. What is that, do you think?
Well, I think people they crave that all-American thing. And Western is pure Americana. And I've been blessed that, for the last several years through The Warrant on INSP and the Warrant Part 2 and Yellowstone and Tulsa King and all these other Western thematic films that we're doing now with Homestead coming out and The Last Rodeo, obviously. I've always just loved that all-American thing. And that I get to do a modern day Westerns in these TV shows, or the next Western we have gearing up, it's called The Wicked and the Righteous. It's Cain and Abel in the West, and it's myself and Jim Caviezel's very interested in playing my evil brother Cain, which would just be a ball. So we're very excited about the future, and the future for us is all American themed things. And I just think there's something black and white and very simple about those thematics that I think that America just loves to jump in and watch if it's done well.
It goes back to the cowboy handshake. I grew up in the West, so I understand it a bit more. My wife grew up in Connecticut, and some the people back east don't necessarily understand how real that is. A man's word is his handshake. You look a man in the eye, right. and also how hard it is to be a cowboy or a rancher or whatever, a farmer. People don't understand what that takes from the whole community, not just the farmer.
Well, I think it's just a tougher way of life.
It is,
and you really appreciate you're with the ground. You're outside at 4:00 in the morning. You're shoveling or feeding or doing whatever, and that day doesn't end until the sun goes down. And by the end of the day, you've lived a full day, and you've spent that day with soil, with animals, with friends, with working hard towards common goals. Those are things that I love, and those are things that my dad put into me as a young kid. That he came from a horse farm in Ireland, and when I was a kid, we were always riding horses. And every Sunday, we'd complain, "Dad, why are we riding horses?" And he's like, "Well, you'll thank me one day, son." Boy, did I thank him now after all the Westerns that I've been in. This is right that I have to. So there's something I love about it.
I have to ask you one question about Taylor Sheridan. Lioness, Landman, Yellowstone, Tulsa King, all on the air, and he is the writer. I mean, I've only seen Stephen King be able to do stuff like that. That is astonishing.
Taylor is, here's a guy who was an actor, who wasn't really kicking it as an actor.
Right.
And then he decided, all right, I'm going to make a shift here. I'm going to start writing my own things, and I'm going to do it my way. And boy, did he do it his way. And with relentless approach to it. He's so creative. He's so tireless. If he wants to get something done, he's going to get it done, because what he does is always good. It's not like he turns out schlock here and there. No, none of it. Everything he's ever done, 1923, 1883, all these shows. I mean, that scene in 1883 with Billy Bob Thornton when he walks into the bar, it's one of the best written scenes in cinematic history. He's just so talented as a writer that when he says, I want you, last summer, David Glasser called me, the producer, and he says, "We got you for another film." I'm like, "Great. It's a short film." "What?" "Yeah, it's a short film. My son Austin's writing and directing. Will you do it?" And how do you say no to David Glasser? And it turns out that it was one of my most favorite projects I've ever done. And it was just, it's this incredible short film. Point I'm getting to is, even their short films are exemplary. Everything that they do over at 101 is just so fantastic. And I'm just so honored to be part of it.
The batting average is so high. And the pattern, I think, is whether they're good or bad, the characters are so strong. I've never seen a series of stronger women, good or bad, of stronger
for
women
sure.
that are in all of his series. And the same with the hero guy. He's just, no matter what, even the Sylvester Stallone is kind of a hero. He's American about ethics,
Right.
And not in the same way The Sopranos, where you were like, well, these are really bad. I mean, he's not a good guy, but he's, I don't know, it's just different. It's just different.
Oh, then you look at Helen Mirren. I mean, one of my favorite, maybe my favorite, or the favorite TV show in our family, the McDonough house growing up was Big Valley.
Yeah.
And what Barbara Stanwyck did to that Western series, that's kind of what Helen Mirren is, I think, to 1923. I think a new episode's coming up pretty soon.
Oh, really?
Oh,
that's great.
So good. But it's all Taylor stuff, and I'm just blessed to be part of the ride, and that he entrusts me, and he keeps on hiring me.
Yeah, he kind of does that he seems to have a pack of, he's a little Orson Welles on that, where he's got his players that they just keep.
Mercury players.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and I'm blessed to be one of those players, that's for sure.
Okay, back in just a second. After a quick break, I want to talk about the state of storytelling. We've gone through a long, dark period, and entertainment has reflected that. Is hope making a comeback? What role is Hollywood going to play? AI going to play? See if he has any thoughts on that when we come back. You know, and I know, that you would never feed your child fast food every meal of every day for their whole childhood. You'd never do it because it's not good. I mean, it beats hunger, but it's not good stuff to feed on a constant diet. Well, that's what we're doing when we're feeding our dog kibble food. He's not getting the good stuff. The nutrition is all baked out of it, so it has a long shelf life. You should give your dog rough greens, which is not a food, but you sprinkle it on your dog's food, and it brings all the good stuff back into your dog's food. Antioxidants, probiotics, omega oils, all this stuff. They are so confident at Rough Greens that your dog is going to love it, that they have a special deal for you. Just go to roughgreens.com/Beck right now. They'll give you your first trial bag for free. All you pay for is shipping. That's normally a $20 value. Get your Jumpstart trial bag now at roughgreens.com/Beck, or you can call them at 833-GLEN-33, 833-GLEN-33, roughgreens.com/Beck. So before I get into Hollywood, Neal has mentioned a couple of times he's a method actor, and you play bad guys. Method acting has led to...
Oh, it can mess you up, that's for sure.
Yeah, so explain for people who don't know what method acting is, and then how do you remain the guy you are?
Well, that's a really good question, Glenn. When you're a method actor, you drudge up. If there's a situation in a script, if you have to laugh or you have to cry, you have to get mad, you pull up something that in your personal life gives you that emotion. So I'm always tinkering with my palette when it comes to colors of what choices I make. And that kind of psychotherapy can certainly drive you crazy at times. And in fact, when I was doing Band of Brothers, I used to live my character 24/7. I mean, that was it. I was all when I was Band of Brothers, I was Buck Compton. I was Buck. I knew what was going to happen.
Long?
I knew reverse engineering. That was a year, more than a year.
Same thing happened with the guy from Australia with Elvis, and he had a hard time coming back from it.
You have a hard time breaking it.
Yeah.
So Reve, in her intimate wisdom, after about dating for 2 months, she's like, "Look, you're driving me crazy. I know the real Neal, and I know when you're turning into Buck. But unless you can turn Buck off and turn Neal back on, it's not that fun for you, and it's not that fun for me." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm a method actor. I'm trained at Lambda, Syracuse." And after about 2 or 3 days of being alone, I was like, "Wait a minute, I think she's actually right." And ever since then, there's like a little switch that I can flick it on. It's like that, Glenn. It's like I can go to. I've got it so dialed in that I can be joking and laughing between takes, and all of a sudden, when they say action, it just flicks right back in, and I know exactly where I should be. And it keeps me from being, and especially when you're playing the bad guy. When I did The Shift, playing Lucifer, you're going to dredge up some horrible things, but
I don't know if I have experiences.
That's right. But you have experience. We all have experiences.
Yeah.
So Reve, again, was like, well, you got to figure out a way to infuse some humanity into playing that character, or else it's going to kind of be one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured it out at the end of the film, where I see Chris has so much love for God, and I just wish that I still had it. And you see this look on my face of, gosh, I wish I could go back to the old days and be that good guy who was by God's side, and I screwed it up.
And we all have more like Stanislavski and Intentions and Obstacles.
That's
right.
But again, if you like movies like The Shift, you like movies that Homestead, where you can sit around the screen, whether in the theaters, because Homestead's a big scope type of film. You want to see it in the theaters. By you supporting films like this, it allows Hollywood to realize, oh, there is definitely a need for films that talk about faith, talk about family, talk about the what ifs of life. And by going out and buying tickets to films like this, that's the message you're directly sending to Los Angeles.
Do you think they can?
I love that.
Do you think they can learn? Because I've talked to enough people where they really don't understand it, and it's not a malice thing or anything. They can try to relate Noah, and they have no idea why that doesn't connect.
Well, it's. I was reading, they had the breakdown of all the studios, of what they're looking for in this project. And never, ever, ever have I seen before, of the 10 of them, 4 or 5 of them in the bottom said, oh, by the way, if you have something of faith, we're very interested this year.
Mm.
So something's changed, whether it's Angel Studios, whether it's the amazing Irwin brothers, whether it's Dallas Jenkins, whether it's the Kendricks, whomever it is who's going out there on the limb and telling stories of faith. So the whole family can go to a theater together, grab popcorn, grab a soda, hang back, watch a movie for 2 hours, then after have a discussion with your 8-year-old or your 80-year-old.
I have to tell you,
not many people are doing that.
I have to tell you,
and Angel Studios is doing that.
I was watching. I came home. My daughter was watching something. She's 18, and I said, "Hey, let's watch a Hallmark movie or something." She said, "Dad, those are so cheesy." And I said, "That's what makes them great." And she said, "No, let's watch something on Netflix about Christmas." And so it was like, I don't know, some prince, going to get married to some baker or whatever. And in the first 5 minutes, they start, and this is a PG, I think it was marked, start discussing oral sex. And I was like, what? Turn it off.
Turn, flick, turn.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sitting there with my 18-year-old daughter, and she's like, "Dad, this is in everything now." And I'm like, "No, it shouldn't be in everything now." There are those who just think that's fine for family viewing, and I'm like, "What is happening?"
If it has something from Kingdom, if it has something from the Irwin brothers, if it has something from Angel Studios, if it has those things on there, there's a safety net to it. But also what I love that they're doing, and that what Reve and I are doing at the McDonough Company, is we're making films that aren't just about Christian faith-based films. We want our films to be more morality plays. So you can be Christian, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim, you can be agnostic, you can be Buddhist. It doesn't matter. You're getting a lesson about life and calling you out. What kind of human being are you, and do you really care about humanity?
I think, Neal, do you think you would have done that if we hadn't have lived in the times that we're living in right now? I often think my dad, his biggest thing at the end of World War I, Korea, Vietnam, he wasn't pushed up against the wall. The values were his values. We've been pushed up against the wall. And would you have pursued that kind of morality thing where you're really asking, because you have today, when you're living, if you're alive, you have to say, well, who am I really? What is it I really believe in? What do I stand for?
That's right. You have to take stances on things in life, or else life just passes you by. And you're like,
but would you have gone down that road and seen that? Do you think you'd be making the same movies?
Had I not been crucified years ago?
Yeah.
Probably not. I would have probably just kept on the path that I was on, and I would have had a good career, I guess. But I can't think that way. All I can think of is years ago. Every year I jump into a body of water on New Year's to start the new year off. And just
you're one of those people? Oh,
I am one of those nutbags who does it. And I ask God every year, what can I do to make the world a better place? And several years ago, I'm not, and I was sober at the time, so I couldn't blame alcohol. I heard him say, make entertainment for me. And you know, sitting, and I could feel the water just get hot, and I could feel this flush go through my body. I'm like, did I just actually hear that? And I thought to myself, well, if I did hear that, I'd better do something about it. And then we started on our first film for $350,000. We did this film about a hitman who finds his religious heart. And then we did part 2 to it. And then we shot that for $1 million. We raised the money for that one. Then we did another movie for 1.5, next one for 2, next one 2.5, next one for 3. We just did the last rodeo for just under $10 million. And the next one's going to, who knows?
Wow.
But all I know is God's putting us in this position to make entertainment for everyone. And that, I got to tell you, Glenn, is just the greatest honor that I could possibly imagine. So would I have been here were it not for that? I don't know, but I am now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make the mistake by letting him down or letting the audience down, and making everything as entertaining as possible when they come to see our films. And Homestead is like that.
I am amazed at, you know, when I left Fox and started The Blaze, nobody was doing streaming online. It especially a network. It just wasn't done.
You were the groundbreaker. You were it.
And everybody said it was madness, and it was. Turns out it was. It was too early, but it was madness. But now to see where Hollywood and everything is, and how everything is, I mean, it's taken us a while, but we're taking on mainstream media head on. I think we've destroyed them. They've destroyed themselves. And the same thing's happening with Hollywood. You don't need to go to Hollywood anymore, and it's good.
Yeah, it's, you know, we made in Hollywood, and I'm guilty of it. I had to make a living. I have 5 kids, and there are things that you have to do. Some of the films that I'm not so proud of. I'm always proud of my performances, but I'm not always. Sometimes you have to take a gig for money. That's just part of life. And it got me to this spot now where people have invested money and faith in Reve and I to make films that are entertaining, that have a faith backdrop to it, and the morality plays. And it's, I'm here now, and again, if you people out there who are watching this show, and thank you for watching the show and supporting the show, because we need more shows like Glenn Beck Show. I mean, it really talks about issues that you actually want to have conversations.
19 seconds. Promote you.
Go watch films like this, because that will make Hollywood and the bigger companies listen to you and make more films that are exactly what you're going to go see this weekend at Homestead or the last rodeo.
It is called Homestead, available in theaters beginning this week. Good night. Back in a minute. Well, this is the last episode of the year, and I thank you so much for watching. It's been a wild ride of a year. I think we've hit all of the emotions and all of the ups and downs and curves. Hopefully next year will be less of a roller coaster, but I doubt it. But until the new year, Merry Christmas. God bless. Good night.